Deadman Mode Apocalypse is set to start in just a couple more days. So in today's video, we're going to go over some quick tips as well as good money makers in each combat bracket. And to kick off the tips, the first one we have is here with Nigel, located in the Lumbridge Graveyard. The most important one is if you do plan on using the same account that you made progress on in the original Deadman, which is the permanent World 45 Deadman mode, you will have to talk to Nigel once Deadman Mode Apocalypse starts and remove all of your progress to be eligible to play on that account in the new season. After today's update, that should be a feature, so you can go ahead and get it done just before release. Make sure though, once you do reset your progress, you do not leave Lumbridge, otherwise your entire process gets reset and you'll have to do it all over again. And then the second tip when it comes to Nigel that I've actually recently realized that quite a few people forgot is that he does offer a daily teleport to all of the starting locations. This is especially useful on day one when you do not have any teleports or levels, so make sure you do take advantage of this. Now the next tip is make sure you are collecting your daily starter packs. Inside of every starter pack you get a free sigil. Even if you're not going to be using the supplies within the starter packs because you already have upgraded better gear, make sure you continue collecting them because sometimes these sigils you get within them are very good. I know last year you were eligible to get, I believe it was called the Sigil of Stamina, which at times was selling for like 150k on the Grand Exchange. And then our final two tips kind of go hand in hand, and they are be smart with your quest completions and use your protection wisely. Every single time you upgrade to the next combat bracket, you are given 1 hour of protection, including right off the rip as soon as the game mode starts. And realistically, if you want to make some great progress, these hours of protection are probably one of the most important features in the entire game mode. So if you're going to plan anything ahead, make sure you plan what you're going to do in each of these hours of protection every single time you jump into the next combat bracket. Then on top of that, when it comes to completing the quest, make sure you don't accidentally jump into a bracket that auto-completes a quest you were planning on doing. And then also be smart in what order you are completing your quest. Some of the brackets give better combat XP than others. For example, as soon as you jump into the third combat bracket of the level 71 to 90, you're going to be getting 15 times combat XP instead of 10 times. And then also, depending on what order and what level you're doing your quest at, it is very possible to accidentally skip the second combat bracket of level 51 to 70. So make sure you don't overlook what levels you're going to be getting and what your combat level is going to be, because you do not want to forego that second hour of protection by skipping that bracket entirely. And then as a quick final tip, make sure you collect your 10k from the Stronghold of Security, and if you are doing this Deadman on a new account because of the World 45 merging, make sure you have your authenticator already set up and activated so you don't have to do it post-launch. But with the tips out of the way, let's now talk about the real reason you probably clicked on this video, and that is making money. I broke these money-making methods down into 3 different tiers. The first one being the low-level method tier, then the medium-level accounts, and then finally the high-level account moneymakers. Realistically, what combat level you do some of these methods is entirely up to you, because there are plenty of people who can do barrows on level 40 accounts, and there are other players who struggle to have any success doing it on an account less than level 70. But to kick things off with our low-level money-making methods, and these methods are going to be done straight off launch. You can do them at level 3, but definitely all under level 50. And you should be able to access them pretty quickly with all of the XP rates. The first method is training agility, and the 2 best ways to make money training agility is through the agility pyramid by collecting the tops and selling them to the guy there for 10k GP, or by buying the new sigil, being the Sigil of the Agile Fortune. And this sigil is basically a fragment straight out of the last league, where every single time a Mark of Grace appears on a rooftop agility course, 10k GP will also spawn with it. Obviously, both of these methods have their pros and cons. The agility pyramid is quite far away from any safe zone, and in comparison, the rooftop agility course, you'll have to get the sigil in order to make it a good method. And I'm sure that sigil will not be cheap, but if you do get your hands on one, it will be dramatically easier to tank your way into a bank or a safe zone. Realistically, agility is always one of the best pure cash money makers at the start of any Deadman season, and I would say the next 2 best ones are going to be stealing silk or doing the jewelry selling / eye-alking in the ham storerooms. Then for our last 2 low tier money makers, I would say Temporos and Wintertot. And I will say, unless you get some really good RNG with your caskets, neither of these options are better pure cash makers than any of the ones I just listed, but they do have the potential to make you some really good money overall after selling the supplies depending on prices. And now moving on to our medium tier moneymakers. Both for the medium and high tier, I have them broke down into my top 3. Realistically, there are tons of other options that I'm not going to be listing in this video. But if you plan on absolutely grinding this Deadman season and swapping over some GP, doing any of these 6 methods will absolutely make you bank. First off, for the medium tier, my top 3 methods are training Hunter and getting to Chins. Chins are always a hot commodity in any Deadman season, and that is not going to change this time around, especially with it only lasting 3 weeks. With the new point system, PKers and PVMers alike are all going to be trying to get incredibly efficient range XP, and the best way to do that is through Chins. The next method is rushing black masks. This method itself has quite a bit of variety, considering you need to do a decent bit of skilling, questing, and then also training your Slayer. But if you grind out the early game and knock out all of those requirements, the first black masks tend to sell between 30 to 50 mil old school for each one. And then for our last medium tier moneymaker, we have Barrows, a moneymaker that has stood the test of time literally. But once again, with the new point system and the racing on high scores, Barrows items have become even more important this time around. Some items may not be as important now as they have been in the past, considering there is no 1v1 stage at the end of this Deadman. But even with that, there should still be a ton of desire for Barrows items, both between PKers and people racing for high score points. And now finally for our high tier, high level bracket moneymakers. And realistically, you can do these methods at lower level combat brackets, but the higher your combat level is, the better your drop rates become. And first off, for the high level moneymakers, we have Slayer. Anything above 75 Slayer becomes an absolute money printer in Deadman mode. You're talking G-Mauls, Tridents, Occults, Whips, not to mention the money you make just off of everyday basic Slayer drops. And if you've never done it before, this grind is not for the faint of heart, because if you really want to make some money training Slayer in Deadman mode, you absolutely have to put in the hours. When it comes to doing content like this to make money, if you're not first, you are last, and that definitely comes into play. But if you are one of the first ones to unlock any of those brackets and get any of those new items in the game, the money to be made is off the charts. Then the second money-making method for the high combat bracket tier, we have raids. Realistically, there is a good item at every single raid. I don't know which ones in particular are going to be the best, but I know some of the best ones from each raids will be like a Vernic Defender from TOB. The Light Bearer is probably going to be absolutely worth bank for people trying to spec each other out. The Fang will probably be worth a decent chunk for some PVMers. I feel like TOA is going to be incredibly popular this time around, considering it is the first Deadman we have it. And I also can't confirm, but I've been hearing some speculation that the Shadow is an incredibly valuable pickup because of how much it's worth on World 45. Not to mention, you also have items like Full Ancestral and Dragon Claws still to get from Chambers of Xeric, and I'm sure you wouldn't be too upset to pull a Tebow. But apart from all those moneymakers, the final moneymaker we have for the high combat level bracket is Breaches. Regardless of your level, if you are at all capable of killing any of these bosses, Breaches are probably going to be one of the best moneymakers in the entire game. Obviously, we don't know exactly what you can get from Breaches just yet, but with it being an original feature in this Deadman, and them really trying to turn it into a PvP hotspot, I can only imagine they made doing Breaches incredibly good GP. On top of that, Breaches are also going to be the only way to get corrupted weaponry, which I covered in my previous video, so check that out if you don't know what that is already. And then also any of the Ancient Warrior weapons. The Ancient Warrior weapons are not going to be available to get within the Wilderness in this Deadman season. You are only going to get items like the VLS from doing Breaches. And then for the final bonus money-making method to end off the video, it didn't really fit within any specific category, but realistically killing anything in the game at any combat bracket, you have the ability to pick up sigils. I'm sure there will be quite a few sigils you can get even in the lowest level bracket that'll be worth some decent money. But the potential you have to make money with sigils dramatically scales with your combat level. Not only can you kill higher level monsters, but the higher combat bracket you're in, the better chance you have of getting a sigil drop in total. But with that, those are my best tips and money makers for this Deadman season. If you guys found this video helpful, consider dropping a like. And if you're around here often and you're not already, hit that subscribe button and I'll catch you guys in the next one.